Welcome back. You have found another tenacious episode of Whining About Pest Control. I am Shelby Hartzer of 360 Pest Consulting. And it's summer, so it is definitely tick season. We did talk about ticks way back, focusing on disease, so go watch that one. This one is going to be different. And since we're going to talk about bloodsuckers, I'm drinking a nice red blend, so cheers. That is a good one. All right, let's back up just a second. I cannot stress enough that ticks need to be treated differently than all of our other pests because they have a 2-year life cycle. 2 years. And each stage needs to take a blood meal to get to the next stage. In addition to that, if we're talking about sanitation and cleaning up food sources, well, our food source is the blood of other animals. Now we have to add in host control. When dealing with ticks, it has to be a long-term strategy. This can't be a one-time thing like spraying for cockroaches. Let's whine about that control and specifically treatments. Remembering how ticks act is going to point to where those liquid applications need to go. Unlike mosquitoes, they're not hanging out underneath leaves. We don't have to get under that vegetation. They're going to climb to some longer grasses and wait for the host to pass by that they can then latch onto. You're going to hear this called the ecotone zone. This is the area where that manicured lawn meets that kind of more wild, unkempt vegetation. Treatments have to get to that longer, taller vegetation right on the edge there. Also, consider their hosts. It's going to vary from large deer to small deer mice. These animals aren't super tall, so the ticks aren't going to be up really high. If you've ever been lucky enough to have a tick on you, it was probably on your ankles or maybe your lower legs. Keep that application lower. And unless there's really heavy vegetation around a structure, around a home, you do not need to get those areas. Next, we have to whine about the products that target the mice that are carrying the ticks. There are tick tubes. These contain little cotton balls treated with fipronil, and the theory here is that the mice take the cotton balls as nesting material and they essentially treat themselves for the ticks. There are tick boxes. These work similarly, but the mice go through the box and they're treated with fipronil on a little wick. They kind of rub up against it and pick up the fipronil that way. One cool thing that is fairly new is a bait station with a Lyme vaccine. There's these little food pellets that are coated with that vaccine. The mice go in, eat a couple of the pellets, get a dose of that vaccine, and then any ticks that they do pick up, they can't continue to spread Lyme disease that way. Of course, we can still use traditional bait stations and traps to reduce the overall number of mice, which reduces the chance of those human-mouse interactions and probably the ticks. A few things that are not going to have an impact. Granular products. How are the ticks going to pick it up when they're on a host or on longer vegetation? Another thing that's not going to help, planting deer-proof or deer-resistant plants. It may keep some of the deer away, but it actually provides more vegetation and more mice can find the habitat there. Lastly, is some of those home remedies that are pretty useless but are all over the internet. I've seen everything from sprinkling diatomaceous earth to spraying lavender oil. Have the customer spend that time cutting the grass and neatening up the landscaping. Watch the sanitation so those issues, like a barbecue grill or other food sanitation, isn't bringing in rodents, and target those tick areas carefully. Remember, it's not just Lyme disease. There are a bunch of nasty diseases that you can get from ticks. And until we talk about all those other diseases, grab your glass, remember to lock in those clients for at least 2 years, and whine to me about ticks and biting pests. I can help with that. Hit all those fun buttons below and share so no one misses out on any of the next whinings. And here is those tenacious tiny little ticks. Cheers.